Hello, everyone. Ed Kull here, Director of Athletics for Fordham University. We're so excited to be with you here today and celebrating on our Jubilee weekend, our Jubilee anniversaries. Unfortunately, doing it still virtually, but excited to at least continue to have our engagement with you all and stay connected with you all and talk to you a little bit about our athletics message. This fun panel is going to be about men's and women's basketball. So a lot of excitement from our women's team again this year in another tremendous season, and a lot of excitement on the men's side as we welcome in a new head coach and a new start and a new program here. I would like to everybody please say hello to Coach Stephanie Gaitley, our head coach of our women's program. I think a lot of you know her, and also like to welcome to the new Ramley and welcome to our Fordham family, Coach Kyle Neptune, who's about probably 7 or 8 weeks in welcoming here. So great to have you both here.
Great to be here.
Great to be here. Thanks, Ed.
Great. We'll start with Coach Gaitley. Coach Gaitley, another tremendous season for your women's program. A second place finish in the Atlantic 10 in the regular season. I know we unfortunately had some scheduling issues there. Probably would have been potentially a first place finish. Another WNIT bid and postseason bid, successful season. Navigating the challenges of COVID on top of that. I got to start by saying this because I could be more proud of Coach Gaitley, of course, for the success on the court, but what she's done with our young ladies off the court. They were our only varsity team to go the entire academic calendar year without a positive COVID test. And as Kyle knows, even being at Villanova prior to here, that is not an easy task. So again, congratulations, Coach Gaitley. Why don't you talk a little bit about the season, the challenges, and of course, the success of your young ladies.
Wow. I mean, in some ways, the year feels like it's been 10 years ago, and in some ways it feels it was yesterday. But Ed, I mean, I thank you for the kind words, but it really is a team effort. I mean, from the school, the testing, to our trainers and, our players, our coaches, it takes a village, as you know, to do it. But I mean, the way we kicked off the season was, obviously when we came back in September, we were very modified with what we were permitted to do. Then we were kind of hit with a curveball that our player of the year, Bryson Kavanaugh was not returning. And so we kind of had to realign ourselves. So we were not only dealing with the pandemic, we were also dealing with, realigning ourselves with the team we thought we had coming back. And then we get hit in December with one of our assistants on the court, Sonia, Burke, being diagnosed with a very aggressive form of cancer. So it was to say a struggle, I think it would be an understatement. But the thing that came out of it was so many blessings. It's hard to, I mean, I'm sure some people will look back and it makes you really appreciate what you have. So every game basically started off with the victory's already begun because we're playing a game, right? So we already had a win because we're getting to play the game. So as you mentioned, there was a lot of shutdowns. There was a lot of curveballs along the way. This was probably, in my career, and I've coached 35 years, probably one of the best chemistry teams I've had, and I think that's why we were able to overachieve. If you had told me with everything we got thrown that we were going to finish second with a chance to have the regular season title, I would have said, wow, what happened? Who stepped up, what happened? But really it was a little bit of everybody. And so for us to get through this year with no positive tests, it says a lot about the kids' discipline, a lot about, the training room, a lot about the school's, philosophy with the testing. It was a team effort, but at the end of the year, this will probably want to be one of my more satisfying years just because of the fact that we did overachieve and that we were able to get a postseason bid. And it was totally a collective team effort. So thank you for the kind words. And again, definitely one for the history books.
No, thank you, Coach. And thank you again for your leadership, navigating the challenges of the pandemic, a challenging year on so many levels, whether it be political unrest, social unrest, mental health, which we talked a lot about this year with our coaches, our staff, and our student athletes. I remember a time, Coach, I think you flew into Dayton to play Dayton. I had to call you in Dayton to tell you that Dayton had a positive test. You would not be playing Dayton that following night or day. But I needed you to get on a bus to go to St. Louis because they now had a game available because they lost their opponent as well. And as wild and crazy as those days were, your leadership and the way you kept your team and student athletes focused, those young ladies got on that bus. They went to St. Louis, not only handled it professionally, won the game, and then continued on their way. And it was that kind of year where literally day by day, week by week, we didn't know what to expect.
100%. 100%.
But I also want to say, hey, we want to welcome our new head coach to our Fordham Athletics family, Kyle Neptune, who joins us from Villanova, 8 years at Villanova under Coach Jay Wright. He was Coach Jay Wright's number 2, his right-hand man overseeing recruiting, much of their strategic X's and O's. Kyle, we talked a lot about this, you and I, as well as a lot of our alums, and even Coach Gaitley was a part of the interview process, which was wonderful to have her a part of that search committee. We had a 5-person search committee, 3 trustees, our faculty athletics rep, our head of development, many alumni involved in the process. We interviewed over 23 candidates. It was a long process, as you know, but a very thorough, very extensive, very successful process in identifying the next head coach of our program. And a lot of folks have heard me say this, someone that had not only the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion to not only, a lot of people call it a rebuild, I've been calling it a new construction. And Kyle, you've heard me say that. The ability to take over a new construction is not easy. Talk a little bit about your first 2 months here on the job and how it's been going between the staff, as well as obviously the roster of current student athletes that are returning. And then of course, the whole transfer portal world of trying to identify some potentially new student athletes.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. Coach G, appreciate you as well. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind the first couple of months here, but I'm loving it. Every time I walk around campus, I'm more impressed on not only how beautiful campus is, but how welcoming the people are, and how and just how, and the energy around campus. So the first couple of months here so far, we've gotten 6 coaches on campus. We've gotten 9 new players so far, a couple in the transfer portal, a couple freshmen. So it's been a lot. But the thing that we've looked for, we look for players that fit the Fordham mantra, and I think we've done that. So we're excited for these guys to come to campus and get going. We've already had a couple on campus so far. Still not allowed to. They're still not officially admitted, so we can't talk about them publicly yet. But we're definitely excited to introduce our staff and introduce our new players and get going.
I love that, Coach, and even me, from my standpoint of being new athletic director here at Fordham, and I guess 4 months here in terms of being a full-time, an active role, a lot of conversations with our staff, administration, our university folks about culture and environment and the role that athletics plays, and the culture environment not only that we want within athletics in our department, but obviously its impact on the rest of the campus. It's really vital from my perspective, that athletics plays a key role in not only, of course, academic profile and applications and marketing and engagement throughout the tri-state area, but really be a true source of school spirit and school pride for our alums, our parents, and for our current student athletes. Coach Gaitley, you took over a challenging situation when you entered into Fordham as well. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of that perspective of what you've built in terms of your successful culture and environment, and obviously what you would share in terms of advice and guidance for Kyle, kind of taking over probably a little bit of a similar situation that you did when you first arrived here at Fordham. But Coach Gaitley, if you could talk a little bit about that, as well as the emphasis you put on and creating that culture and environment that you've created a successful program here at Fordham, probably one of our most successful programs here, and you're one of our most successful coaches. Talk about that process, so that culture and environment, the construction, the build of it, and now to the point where it's kind of, the momentum that you've achieved, and where you're able to identify the right Fordham student athlete for your model of success.
It's funny. First of all, I got to welcome Kyle. So I'm super excited to have Kyle aboard. And I'm very thankful to Ed, and thankful to Ed that has been made the official AD. So we're, Kyle and I are both excited about Ed's vision for the athletic department. And, I agree with Kyle about the sleeping giant and what Fordham men's basketball can be. And I have 3 sons, all in the basketball world. And I talk to a lot of guys about, why can't Fordham win, or why hasn't it won, and what will it take? And to me, and it's funny, I was going through this, we were on a Zoom yesterday with we're looking into a program that kind of talks about the overall person and what kind of, like how, and it'll do the team as well. And what drives you and what motivates you. And I came out as like a people person, and I think that's what Fordham was for me. And Kyle kind of hit on it when he came up to visit, is just like, I knew when I was leaving, a lot of my colleagues were like, thought I was crazy because Fordham had no history of success. And I'm sure Kyle dealt with that a lot. I mean, I think even Jay and I had the conversation of like, what are you doing? I just feel if you get the right person, with everything that I felt that I walked into at Fordham, I had heard a lot of different nightmares about the prior coaches and the culture and different things. And, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Kyle's seen it. I'm sure Ed in athletics, you've seen it. It's kids change every decade. And so I've had to change. And I think I've become more of a nurturer. I mean, obviously I'm very demanding. I'm not a big yeller, but I'm demanding, but I'm fair. And so when I first came up to visit, I was so impressed, like Kyle, the people. And then the pieces were there. I thought, okay, if the budget's there, the flexibility with admissions, because I knew it was a high academic school. I thought, all right, I've got the pieces that I feel it can be successful. So now how do you take somebody that's all they've done is lose and teach them to win? To me, it's a process. It's every little thing you do. There's got to be a win and a loss to it. So every drill we do had a win and a loss to it. Everything had a consequence. You got to learn to hate to lose, and I knew the first year, and I mean, I know obviously Kyle was going into that first year, like, oh yeah, like that's the way everybody goes in, right? But you got to go in realistic, knowing that the first thing is teaching them how to win. And that's not always easy because, people want you to play an aggressive schedule and they want fun games, but the fun games aren't the easy game, it's a combination of a lot of things you got to deal with. So, it's funny. I share the secret because I got it from one of the coaches I work with, Jim Furry at LAU. And I walked into pickup one day, and this was in the fall. I don't do it in the spring. And I was so impressed because usually pickups like, up and down, crazy crap, and, like things ball flying. And I was surprised by, the fundamentals and how serious the kids were taking it. So I asked Jimmy, I said, Jimmy, why is your pickup so clean? Usually it's not clean. He goes, I'm going to give you a secret, and you got to include it into your CARA. But we put them into teams, every week we give them different teams. And every time you win, you get a point. And at the end of the week, the 4 or 5 kids with the lowest amount of points gets up at 6 on Friday morning and run. So that half hour obviously gets applied to CARA. So now all of a sudden there's accountability for kids making mistakes. So now you're pissed off. You don't want to get up on Friday morning and have to run. But so now you're not going to box out. You're not going to rebound. Your teammates are now going to hold you more accountable. That was something I started right from the beginning. And it definitely had a profound effect because now accountability was starting to set in right away. So that's the structure. And then loving them up. It was a group that hadn't felt being loved and that cared about. And you're not going to get anything from anybody unless they feel you care about them. So Kyle already has that feel. I got that through the whole process. And, I really do believe that it starts with the right person. There's no doubt in my mind that Kyle can get this done. I think people need to be patient and understand it is a process. So you have to win little things before you win the big things, which are the actual games. But there's no doubt in my mind, I had a lot of success because I had a lot of great coaches, players, and administrators that backed me. But I have no doubt that Kyle is going to do the same thing.
Coach Gaitley, I appreciate that. Well said, and very much right to the heart of it in terms of what needs to take place here. And I appreciate those comments a lot. And a lot of folks make a lot about Kyle's resume and history of Villanova, and of course the national championships. And Jay Wright's a Hall of Fame head coach, or soon to be a Hall of Fame head coach. And I know he knows what it looks like, and has been obviously on that Final Four stage, that national championship ladder, cutting down nets. But what I actually loved about Kyle throughout this process and was helpful was, and he was very helpful to me in a lot of conversations, was his even previous stops with Joe Mahalik up at Niagara as well as at Hofstra, and not only the understanding of obviously smaller school, mid-major schools, but the ability, recruit up at Niagara is not easy in terms of getting kids obviously to go up there. The ability of understanding some of the landscape of college basketball. Joe is awesome, another terrific head coach. Kyle has obviously born in Brooklyn, has New York City roots, played hoops at Lehigh, I think understands Fordham well in terms of not only what it means to the city, but obviously its importance of academics and its academic profile. Kyle, talk a little bit about all those pieces and kind of the ability of learning, of course, Fordham as you will, and you're doing it quickly, and trying to establish your own identity, your own culture, and kind of but taking pieces of those learnings and building that.
Yeah, and I want to thank Coach G for talking about culture earlier. I was taking notes to implement into my program. That was some big time stuff, Coach. My journey is definitely been pretty unique in terms of starting at Villanova, going up to Niagara, and being a little bit of culture shock. And being under some great leadership in Joe Mahalik and learning how to build things from the bottom. We had a lot of success up there before I got there, and he lost like 4 or 5 key players right before I got there, and we basically had to start from scratch. So, and the thing that he talked about the most was the type of people we were going to bring in, and we ended up building it, and by year 3, he led us to a league championship. And the thing, and Coach G kept talking about it, it's the type of people that you bring into the program that help you do it, and that's the coaches, that's the players, and it starts in recruiting. And for me, every person we recruit, we're trying to be 100% transparent in what we're going to expect, whether it's academics. We're going to want them to aspire to be something off the court, being a good person, being accountable, being a good man, and then we're going to push them on the court. And we want people who want to be pushed. So that way, and it's like these guys are kids, right? So you tell them all these things, but kids want to play for the most part, especially our guys. They want to play, but at least we've had that conversation. When we do have some tough times, and we say, hey, we talked about how important academics is. We talked about the fact that we're going to hold you off the court, accountable off the court, and becoming a better leader, better man. We talked about the fact that we were going to push you on the court, and it wasn't going to be easy. So when we go through those tough times, they know that we're being legit with them, and they know we're looking out for their best interests. And at the end of the day, I always say this. Our goal as coaches is to get our guys to do the things they don't want to do to get where they want to go. And if we can do that at a high level, I think we'll be great.
I love that. I love that, Kyle. I appreciate that. And it's a good segue here to one of our next questions and a conversation that comes up often, and questions I field often is alumni engagement and alumni involvement. And I know the two of you have heard me speak a lot about that. And often it's always in a development and fundraising standpoint. And obviously what we're trying to do, we're excited that athletics is going to be a part of the next capital campaign for the university, a huge opportunity for us to grow each of your programs as well as our entire athletics department. And a lot of conversations of how we do a better job of engaging alums. And Coach Gaitley, you've done an incredible job of that here while you've been at Fordham. And Kyle, you and I have had a lot of conversations about that, even in the interview process, of the value of the alumni network and what it means for internships, job placement, student athlete mentoring, and the ability that we talked a lot about, not just these current 4 years, but the next 40 years. And I think that's a big, important piece of the Jesuit mission and what the values at Fordham University are all about. 3 of us spent, I think, a couple of weekends ago up at the Mohegan Sun, celebrating and honoring our alum, Mike Breen, who went into the National Basketball Hall of Fame, and the ability to celebrate and engage that incredible career, and the ability to connect with as many alumni as possible. Coach Gaitley, you've done a great job of building an alumni support system for your team, alumni network for your team. Talk a little bit about the value, the importance of the Fordham alum, what you've done, how it's been important for your program, and obviously what we can continue to do to further engage.
I mean, Ed, you hit it on the head. It's just, engaging them. And like when I took the job, I think I went down and I called almost every alum that, like I just made a point because, text messages and email, they're not going to pay attention. And it was time consuming. Obviously, you do a certain amount per week and you just, you don't get everybody, but you try to get as much as you can. And then you try to collect the ones that are really into the program, which there's the core that obviously are really into the program, and then take them out to lunch and just get to know them. And then what I tried to do is I tried to have different people in different decades really be the point person, to kind of just rally the groups, like, hey, can you get in touch with the kids in the 80s or the kids in the 90s? And you got the early 2000s. So, it's definitely a process. I put somebody on my staff in charge of that just because that's how valuable I think it is. I think they work hand in hand with Kara and Kara's office on that. And you are so right about that. Like, they've done a great job. They've come in and spoke to the team. One was the CFO of Christine Dreesen was a CFO. She wasn't a former player, but she's a former, student at Fordham, and she came in and spoke to the team. And that, Abigail Corning ended up with an internship at ESPN. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of different connections of people coming in and, speaking. And I think Kyle, I'm sure, seeing it through the process. And even on the men's side, it's even stronger. So I do encourage Kyle, and I know he will, because he's already done that, just to get out, reach out and touch, like that they, whether they had favorites, favorite players, favorite coaches, and that's what you're dealing with. You have so many different coaches. It's not like when I played for Harry at Villanova, it's one coach. And so you're umbrellaed by one coach. You're dealing with a ton of different coaches. So you're trying to gather the troops, so to speak, and get them united on the Fordham way, and so it'll take effort. I think, that Kyle, I'm sure, will put time into this year's, alumni function just to try to get as many back as possible. And I think, Ed knows. I mean, Ed and I worked hand in hand with development. I mean, it's just like all we kept talking about is there's so much things here that could explode, and we know men's basketball, and we know athletics is the porch of the school, basically. And I have no doubt Kyle will get that done. I encourage him to continue to work that hard, just because it has really, really paid off with great relationships and great things for our players.
I appreciate that, Coach. And Kyle, you and I have had a lot of conversations about this. You've even talked about the plan that was implemented at Villanova and at previous places you were at, and the importance of career development, of mentoring student athletes, for providing opportunities for them, post-career when their playing days are done. Talk a little bit about, you've been active already with reaching out to a lot of alums. I know we're trying to do that more and more. And as Coach said, and she does it better than anybody in terms of phone calls and outreach. Talk a little bit about your vision here, because I think there is such a tremendous desire and craving, not only for basketball success and winning. I think we understand that, but for even to be connected and engaged, for former players to come back involved, for alums and who have passionate memories of different decades of Fordham basketball, whether that was the Digger Phelps years, whether that was Tom Pender's years, whether that was a little bit of Nick McCarchuck in our last tournament appearances. Talk a little bit about trying to engage those alums, because as Coach put it, the separation and the changes in coaching and leadership has created some gaps, and we have a lot of work to do, and we own that and embrace that. But talk about like your style and approach and what you've learned about how we go about some improved alumni engagement on the men's basketball side.
Yeah, first and foremost, you hear how passionate Coach G is about alumni engagement. And I think that's where it starts. It has to mean something to the head coach. And obviously, clearly, Coach G has done a fantastic job in making sure there's a real family on the women's side. And that's what we're trying to mimic and do on the men's side. For me, coming from Brooklyn, New York, I've been, a lot of the friends I grew up with didn't get the same opportunities I did. And one of my passions besides coaching basketball is to make sure that guys growing up, especially like me, get those opportunities. And the way to do that is to make sure we have a network available to them to succeed when they're done playing. It's crazy to me, Fordham basketball, Fordham University, being in New York City, being one of the premier academic institutions in New York City, with all the people that have graduated from here. Like there's no reason why we can't have a huge extended family, basketball family on the men's side. And I'm really excited trying to hope that these guys come back and feel excited about being part of it. Our goal really this year is to make sure that, especially the basketball guys, the rest of the school as well, but really the basketball guys who've graduated from Fordham University are proud to wear the Fordham gear and are proud of our guys on the court and are proud of how they handle themselves. And then, like you said earlier, and Coach said earlier, and it's clear with Coach, it starts with the head coach, and we have someone on our staff as well that will be directly in charge of, trying to reach out to people. I'll do it as well. And we have a couple functions coming up that we'll blast out and that we'll try to do as well to bring guys back in.
I think everybody probably could sense, even though I know we're virtually here via our Zoom these days, you could see even the relationship between the two coaches here, and that's important, not only to me in terms of a working relationship and a culture and environment with the athletics department. That's important for even these two coaches to have additional resources, to have support, and to feel that these programs are rowing together and pulling together and helping each other. I know they'll both quickly tell you how important when the other one is having success, it helps their program. And I've had these conversations on a daily basis with Father McShane in terms of our strategic planning efforts, with the board of trustees in terms of our future planning efforts and our capital campaign. But the value of athletics and in this conversation, men's and women's basketball, to the overall student experience for all of our students on campus, as I sit here in Rose Hill Gymnasium on the Rose Hill campus, and the value that athletics plays into that whole student experience. And even coaches here and I have had some initial conversations of how we engage student body and do a better job of engaging the student body on campus for the upcoming season and creating excitement and welcoming them back. And I think as Coach identified earlier, going through the pandemic where no fans, no student engagement, you kind of, you really miss them that much more and take that for granted, that excitement that students bring to the gymnasium, not even just from a home court advantage, but from an excitement and a school spirit and a school pride standpoint. Coach Gaitley, you've done a good job, obviously, of establishing strong relationships, whether that be with the FUV community, who's been wonderfully supportive of athletics. The dorms and Res Life, our great friends in student affairs have been helpful in terms of getting that. Talk about a little bit about the importance of students attending games and being a part of the program, as well as your strategies and efforts in terms of engaging them.
Well, I think Nick's done a great job, and we've got the herd now, and we're starting to do more things. And I know even when women's basketball, sometimes obviously it's a struggle because our audience is different. Like the students typically gravitate to men's basketball, and the women's side is usually family. So like when I was coaching at St. Joe's, I started a marketing committee and picked people on campus, picked people off campus, and we ended up leading the A10 in attendance. And so when I took the job here, we were last in attendance, and I think we're like third now. But I started again a marketing committee, and that it develops relationships. We had a couple students, we had housing, we had people from different aspects on the campus, and then we took people from Westchester County or the Bronx community and the CYO, and it's just Kyle will definitely get it done. He's got a great personality, and we've talked a little bit about bringing Ramtown back because I think the students are craving for that. They're craving for someone that really cares about them and cares about like the excitement on campus. And it's not, obviously winning is part of it, but it's just feeling like I think we can win, and I think that's a big part of it. And I have no doubt, I still remember one of my first years here when Ramtown was in effect and there was lines down, and it's not like men's basketball had a winning season. It's just the excitement that was built through like, we're going to get it done. And I don't think there's any better time than, with obviously Kyle being, kicking it off of maybe bringing that back, because I think the students here will come, I think they will come. The other thing that I think, and I think we can probably, and that's through Ed's office, is some of the ideas we were starting to get off is like, off the ground was like, the other teams supporting each other. Like when football was at our games, it was huge, teams supporting teams, and that ends up bringing big numbers as well. And it is a journey and it's a process, and it doesn't happen overnight, but I have no doubt it will get done. I think the pieces are there.
Well said, Coach. And Kyle, I know we've had this conversation too, whether it be right I know both of you have this style, this approach, and this personality, which I love in terms of genuine and authentic engagement. But whether it's walking into the cafeterias or storming the dorms with flyers or handing out pizzas, what's your thoughts, Kyle, in terms of really trying to energize and engage this campus? And I think, we're honest and open. I've spent 25 years in the Atlantic 10 for men's basketball and 2 winning seasons. Obviously, we have a heavy lift together, and all of us in this together. But talk about the opportunity with that student body. And I think, I talk to a lot of alums. That's obviously very much an important part of my job and role. And those that are most passionate about our basketball programs are those that had wonderful experiences while being students in the student body. So there's a direct correlation to their memories, their fondness, their whole student experience that we talk about. Give us your thoughts, Kyle, in terms of that approach and efforts as we move into your first season.
Yeah, again, I think Coach hit it on the head. It's just just having legitimate relationships around campus, and from going into dorms like you mentioned, Ed, but also just going around and making and starts again with the head coach and through the players as well, talking to different people around campus and not putting your head down and walking through campus and not talking to people. And the more legitimate people that around campus, and they feel that bond, not only, and again, not just with the coaching staff, but with the players, they'll be more inclined to come to games. And then from going to dorms to throwing a couple camps and clinics where people feel connected to the program and the community. And then like Coach G mentioned, Ramtown, I think would be a great event to kick off the season, and have people excited about men's and women's basketball, and get them going and get them feeling that tingle of excitement and that longing to want to be a part of it.
I love the approach of both of you, and of course both your personalities. I think it's so important to your willingness to be open and transparent and engage, whether that's parents, whether that's alumni, whether that's our student body, whether that's faculty, whether I know it's obviously essential in your recruiting world, but I think it's important where, we all know, obviously being in the heart of New York City, professional sports town, a no nonsense, tough attitude, right, of the tri-state area alums, and whether the Fordham student is from other parts of the country or the world, we know that obviously in this city, you kind of have to be transparent and direct and open and honest. Otherwise, everybody's gonna be quick to call you out on that. So I love that approach from both of you. And I think our students are so savvy and wise to pick up on that. So I think the genuine authenticity of both of you is going to really help us here moving forward as we continue to build and construct appropriately. My next question is for both of you, and it comes from an alum, and it's often a topic that plays into recruiting, but I like to really identify it more into the ability for us to tell the full story and narrative of Fordham University and Fordham student athlete. Talk a lot about obviously wins and losses, and it's easy to track that in terms of metrics. We know how successful our student athletes are, not only on the playing surface, but in the classroom. This year, we had 468 student athletes have a GPA of 3.0 and above. We had 360 have a GPA of 3.25 and above. And that's just remarkable as we talk about the whole student and the whole person that we develop here at Fordham. And I often we talk a little bit about, especially this year, with our challenges of social unrest, political unrest, community service involvement. We do a wonderful job of that, and all of our programs do. And Coach Gaitley, you've done that here at Fordham, and I know Kyle, you will implement that here at Fordham. But talk a little bit about the ability to leverage the New York City tri-state area, engage in the community, engage in the Bronx, engagement in our backyard, and instilling those core Jesuit values of giving back and men and women for others. Coach Gaitley, I know you do a tremendous amount of community service with your student athletes. Talk a little bit about the importance of that and the role it plays here at Fordham.
It falls in line with, the whole Jesuit mind, body, spirit, and developing the overall person. And like I said, when I was on that call yesterday, the guy was kind of surprised. I said, yeah, obviously winning is part of my job, but probably the most satisfying part is seeing them grow, off the court, and become more confident young women. Look at what this whole summer, we did a lot of Zooms on the racial injustice, and I knew I grew as a coach, just hearing stories and hearing their pain or hearing their thoughts and just sharing. And so I just think if we're helping these guys grow, then they have to help somebody else grow. And so we have a Rams 24. That's our program where we give a day of our life back. Means you have to give 24 hours of your life back during over the both semesters that you have to whether it's something that we plan, community service, but you have to give total of 24 hours. So it may be doing a clinic. It may be going to the Bronx and reading to kids and developing a reading program. Like, I think it's huge to get into the Bronx, community. I was talking to some people in the Bronx and they were saying basically when the kids get done school, the parents just want them back in their houses to keep them safe. And that's why, I think, Ed, you and I had that conversation. It's kind of doing this open thing on the football field with all sports and let people know that, hey, like it's free to come see soccer and it's free to come see certain sports, to let these kids know that there is a future outside, like what they're dealing with in those certain communities. So I think it's a big responsibility of myself and all coaches to give back and to teach our kids. It's more than just basketball. We're preparing you for life after basketball. And so there's a lot of lessons that we teach along the way, and basketball is certainly a great teacher of those lessons.
Well said, Coach Gaitley. And I know Coach Gaitley, as well as Coach Neptune, you both welcome back a bunch of your student athletes here this past week as we start summer session 1 for them and allow them to take some classes as well, do some workouts. Kyle, you welcome back you're welcoming a lot of new student athletes to this team, as well as the return some. And you emphasize a lot of conversation with me, the importance in conversation with me about opening their eyes about the culture of New York City and what it has to offer, and the full understanding of what Fordham University is all about. Why don't you talk a little bit about that from your perspective in terms of community involvement, community engagement?
Yeah, well, for me, it's personal because I'm from New York City. I talked a little bit about it earlier, being from Brooklyn, and just seeing firsthand that some guys didn't get the same the same path that I got. They didn't get the things that I got in life that helped me get here. They didn't get those same opportunities, and that's what I want for our guys. I want them to be able to get all those opportunities, and Fordham is the perfect place to get those opportunities. But also the people off campus and in our outer community, they should get those as well. And I think with our guys being an example for them, like Coach Gaitley said, the Bronx can be a little bit of a treacherous place, and navigating that can be a little tough. But if the people outside of campus can use our guys as an example of what they could be one day, that would definitely be to our advantage. And we've already set up a couple of events that we're looking to do to help facilitate that.
Terrific. That sounds great, and obviously exciting for both. I have a question here from an alum that I want to throw out to both of you. Is kind of what the expectations and what alumni should expect from each of your programs in the upcoming season. So I guess we'll start with you, Coach Gaitley, in terms of kind of what you like your forecast is for the upcoming season here from women's basketball.
Everybody likes, I always say, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, that's an experienced coach right there, right? Yes.
You know what? I can say it's the most aggressive out of conference schedule that I've faced in my 35 years as a coach. So I want to give our kids, and I'm in a different place that Kyle is. So like when 10 years ago, I was where Kyle was. I had to teach the kids how to win. I wasn't at this place. And 10 years later, so 10 years later, we're in a position where we're coming off, this 21 class is probably one of my favorites that we've had in my 35 years, that in a pandemic. So I kudos to our staff for, putting together this class, but we start off aggressive. I mean, we are on the road at Notre Dame. And then we have Michigan State coming in, and then we go to a tournament. We play Baylor, Arizona State, and Houston, and then we have Princeton at home. We're at Seton Hall, and that's not even counting our Christmas tournament. So like the goal for us at this point is give ourselves 2 chances to get the NCAA tournament. This is the strongest, and a lot of it is obviously the result of kids coming back that 5th year, but this is by far, in my 10 years since I've been at Fordham, the strongest I've seen the Atlantic 10 on the women's side. So there is a lot of parity. I think this is going to be a year where you see multiple bids to the NCAA tournament, as long as people can kind of take care of business, because your business is done obviously in your out of conference games. So, you got to get a few wins there, but I am super excited about, we have I think this first time in the history of Fordham and women's basketball, we have 3 all A10 members coming back. Anna DeWolf was co-player of the year as a sophomore, and she's going to take that extra year. So she's actually going to be a sophomore again. And then we have Kenny Jeremiah, who has done a great job in the summer so far. And she's in our first, and she'll be in our second session of summer school. And she was second team all conference. And she actually could be the one that pushes Anna for player of the year, and then third team, Caitlin Downey. So we have 3 all conference members coming back with a very solid freshman class, and a transfer coming in, and a lot of depth on that bench. So we are super excited. It's a great group of kids. The overall GPA was a 3.5. I mean, you can't, how do you get mad at these kids? They work hard both on and off the court. So they make the job easy. They're fun. Like Kyle said, it's who you recruit. It's who you align yourself with. So we're excited about the future, and we're ready for the challenges ahead.
Now that's exciting, Coach. It's great to have those student athletes back. You took on a very, very challenging schedule, so it's exciting that you're playing the best of the best, and we're excited to get started here in the fall. Kyle, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about your year one and kind of what it looks like in terms of that initial construction and obviously this process.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of new guys and 9 new players at the moment, but to be honest, everyone's new, right? Because every staff member is new because they've never done this at Fordham. Every player is new because they've never been under the new head coach. So we're gonna take some time to really try to have our team gel and blend together, and do a lot of team events that can help them get to know each other and the staff and build some camaraderie. And then, in terms of goals, our goal in year one and always will be to be the best team we can possibly be at the end of the season. And, to push our guys as hard as humanly possible. And then also to be the toughest team in the league. And whatever those results are, those results we'll live with. So, if those results are A10 championship this first year, great. That would be awesome. If those results aren't as favorable, but we're the toughest team in the league, and we push this team to be the best it could possibly be, okay, we'll live with those. So now and forever, those will be our goals.
Terrific. I'm a little bit short here in terms of time, I'm being told, but I have one alumni question that I will answer myself before I wrap this up for us. Alums asking how they could get involved and help our athletics department, our programs. And obviously the first answer is, of course, we appreciate and thank all of our loyal donors and supporters. The financial support is extremely helpful for our athletics department. Please continue to consider supporting both our men's and women's basketball programs. You can tell what they're doing. You tell the great leadership we have in both those programs. There's a lot to be excited about, a lot to be proud of here. And your financial support really helps us, whether it be on the operational side, recruiting side, travel side, some of the equipment needs, tournaments and stuff that we have. And it's extremely helpful to help continue to elevate both of these programs. And you can tell both these coaches truly would appreciate and love your continued generosity and support. But as you've already heard in this conversation, internships, job opportunities, mentoring of our student athletes. Are you open to hosting a cocktail event or an alumni function for one of our coaches here, Coach Gaitley or Coach Neptune, and continue to engage alumni and get people back, get individuals back involved on campus and reconnecting with alma mater? I think there's opportunity, of course, to attend games. Yes, buy tickets, come to games, support the teams, meet our student athletes, spend some time with our coaches, enjoy the wonderful environment of our dance team and our cheerleaders and our bands who support us so wonderfully. But please continue to come back, engage, and connect. As you can tell, you spend some time with Coach Gaitley, Coach Neptune, or any of our student athletes. There's a wonderful bond and connection there, and that's contagious. And we want to spread that message. But continue to spread your message to all of your former classmates, your former teammates. Bring your parents and family members to games and on campus, and enjoy the opportunity. The more we get that entire group involved and every last person, it's going to be extremely helpful as we look to build the future of Fordham athletics. But Again, Ed Kull here. I thank you so much on behalf of Coach Neptune, Coach Gaitley. It's been our pleasure. And again, I know everybody's enjoying the Jubilee weekend virtually here, but we love you. We love our Ramily. We're excited to have you back on campus here shortly, and go Rams.